Okay, if you've flown anywhere in the US recently, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those endless lines, the last-minute gate changes, and that sinking feeling in your stomach that your flight might not even take off. Well, I'm here to tell you it is not just in your head. The system is buckling. And today, we're going to dig into exactly why American aviation is teetering on the brink.
It really all starts with this one kind of staggering number, over 4,200. Now, a number that big represents a system that's truly at its breaking point. So what on earth does it mean?
Get this, that's the number of flight disruptions. We're talking cancellations, delays, the whole shebang across the United States on just one Tuesday. This isn't some holiday weekend fluke. It's become the new, incredibly frustrating reality for anyone trying to get from point A to point B. And it really begs the question. Right, because this level of chaos isn't just one bad thing happening. Nope, it's a perfect storm, a whole mess of crises all converging at the exact same time, creating this massive domino effect or failures. So let's break this storm down piece by piece, starting with what you actually see at the airport. First up, let's look at the symptom. Total chaos on the tarmac. And look, this isn't about a few flights running a little late. This is a nationwide breakdown. So, who got hit the hardest?
What's really fascinating here is what this table tells us about airline strategy. Just look at Southwest. Only 2 cancellations, but a whopping 71 delays. You can see they're desperately trying to avoid canceling flights outright, but the pressure is just so intense that the delays are completely spiraling out of control. And this wasn't just a problem for US carriers either.
And while the problem was happening everywhere, the pain was really concentrated in a few key places. San Francisco International was basically ground zero, just crippled by hundreds of delays and cancellations. But other major hubs, like Atlanta and JFK, were also hemorrhaging on-time departures. So, we've seen the symptoms. Now let's diagnose the disease.
You know, this chaos wasn't random at all. It's the direct result of what our sources are calling a three-headed crisis. 3 separate, really powerful forces, all squeezing the airline industry at the same time. And it's the way they're all feeding off each other that's creating the real disaster here.
The first head of this monster, a critical shortage of people. We're talking about a major collapse in TSA staffing. That means security lines get longer, which then creates this bottleneck that delays boarding, which holds planes at the gate. You see the problem? The very first step of your trip is completely failing.
Okay, the second pressure point hits airlines right where it hurts, their wallets. Geopolitical instability, like the Iran war fuel shock our sources mention, has caused jet fuel prices to absolutely skyrocket. And since fuel is often an airline's single biggest cost, this isn't just a small price hike. It's a massive financial shockwave hitting every single flight they operate.
And the final ingredient in this perfect storm is the one thing nobody can control: the weather. Widespread storms basically acted as a force multiplier. All of a sudden, those staffing shortages mean there aren't enough people to de-ice planes or reroute crews. And those soaring fuel costs? They make circling a storm financially devastating. The weather turned a bunch of bad problems into a complete operational meltdown.
So you've got a staffing crisis, a fuel crisis, and a weather crisis all hitting at once. This goes way beyond just being an inconvenience for passengers. This perfect storm is inflicting serious financial damage, and it's forcing airlines to make some really tough, long-term decisions about their future.
$400 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. Because to understand just how devastating that figure is, you have to know what it actually represents. This quote really puts the whole fuel crisis into perspective. That $400 million isn't Delta's total fuel bill. No. That's the extra unbudgeted cost for a single airline in a single month. Now, just try to imagine that level of financial pain scaled across the entire industry. You can start to see why some radical changes are on the table.
So what are the airlines doing about it? Well, they're making these long-term strategic cuts. You can see here, United is slashing 5% of its entire schedule for the next 6 months. And on the other side, Air Canada is taking an even more drastic step, completely pulling out of JFK for half the year. This is the new reality: fewer flights and fewer routes, all to survive these crippling costs. So, this all leads to the big question, right? What does the future of air travel actually look like? With airlines already cutting back, things are about to get even more complicated, because there's a huge deadline looming that puts the entire industry in a real race against time.
This timeline just lays out the collision course perfectly.
Right now, airlines are cutting flights just to stay afloat. But in just 60 days, the FIFA World Cup is going to trigger this massive surge in travel demand. And here's the kicker. The only real solution, training new TSA staff, takes 4 to 6 months. The math just doesn't work. We have a tidal wave of travelers coming, and an industry that's in absolutely no shape to handle it.
And when you put it all together, it leads to one final critical question. With costs soaring, a staffing crisis that won't be fixed overnight, and a huge spike in demand right around the corner, airlines have very little choice but to fly less and charge more. So, are we looking at a permanent shift here? Are smaller schedules and higher prices simply the new normal for air travel? That's something to think about the next time you go to book a flight.